call the meeting in order. If everyone can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So before we get to our guests here, we're going to do a couple things prior. We have public to be heard, but we do not have any, right, Carla?
Correct.
All right. So we're going to do some good news from the district. First up, what? Oh, okay.
Get off the screen, please.
So we have
Thank you.
a couple throwbacks. A couple thank yous went out to Coach Veltz and the varsity team, Carrie Ann McBride and the BMS Honor Society students, and our SROs who did a fundraiser. Was that for the Olympics? The Special Olympics for the polar, with their polar plunge. So that was 2 years ago. Some new ones for this year. We have Mrs. Notaro, our principal at Jackson, for Andy Martin. Built our students a new lending library that sits outside Jackson Primary. The old one could not withstand the weather elements, and Andy took it upon himself to make us a new library. Thank you, Andy. I know our students appreciate it. Let's see, we're going to skip ahead to Mrs. Fix from Robert Morris. A thank you to Erica O'Donnell for always going above and beyond for our students at Robert Morris. Every day is filled with new ideas and exciting activities. You are the backbone to our school. Work behind the scenes to help ensure that our school has the brightest of days. Thank you, Erica. Make the impossible possible. And to John Kennedy, I'm going to screw up on his last name. Gagne?
Gagne.
You got it.
Yeah, thank you. From John Kennedy, a giant thank you to our nutritional services staff. They provide applesauce and cornbread for all of our second grade students to taste as we celebrated the curriculum of our Wit and Wisdom unit about pioneers traveling west. Let's go to Mandy Antonucci, our art teacher. The annual K-12 District Art Show is now up for viewing at the Richmond Memorial Library through the end of March. There was an artist reception for the students, parents, and community members that were just this past Friday, so we encourage our community to get out and take a look at those. Let's see, how about Library Media Specialist, the last one there for, I'm going to screw up his name too. Congratulations to Gideon Bradley, who won the prize basket for submitting his blind book date review. In celebration for Valentine's Day, over 600 books were wrapped by the middle school spine support staff. Then clues were written about the contents of the covers. Students chose them based off the information, read them, and then submitted their review for a chance to win. So congratulations to him. There is some more listed on the website if you want to take a look at those. All right, so next up, we have some special guests here with us a second time, right? All right, so we have our girls 4x2 relay team who just won their second state championship. When was the last one? In July last year? I think you guys were in. Was it in June when you came into the July meeting?
Yeah, June.
Excellent. So we got a little video that I want to play that Mr. Smith sent to us.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. My name's Addison O'Donnell. We race the 4x200.
My name's Ella Champ.
My name's Nevaeh Thomas.
My name's Charisma Westcott.
Well, we were really close with the first 3 legs, and then Charisma just kind of kicked it out and got the win for us.
It's so surreal. It's such an exciting feeling. Like, there's no better feeling than winning with people that you trust and that you have worked with all season. So I really think that our hard work showed.
This is our second state championship title, and we're always pushing each other and like boosting our confidence, and like that helps us win more.
Yeah, so in practice, we'll make sure we're uplifting each other, trying our hardest, going 100%. We practice like we run every time. We're always, no matter if it's handoffs, strides, anything, we're always giving 100%, so it shows off in place.
Definitely the team bonding part and just like having things to like get closer and having that bond through on the track and off the track.
I think a lot of people don't see how much work that our coaches also put in to working with our relay. It's really important for them and for us to trust them, and we do a lot of stuff with them to make sure that we're ready.
When there is a bad handoff, we all uplift each other, and we know that we're going to bounce back from that. Even if it is meet day and we have a bad race, we know that when it's time, it's time.
Our track program is a very dominant team. Every team knows who we are. When we walk in, teams are like, oh, Batavia has all of their athletes, because we walk in and we're ready to compete. So I think it's really an exciting but like dominant moment, because we put in the work. Everyone on our team does, not just us. And I think that shows that means when we blow teams out of the water.
Like us winning so much makes us want more and more. I think definitely don't let your mistakes define you and move on from it.
I think embrace every moment, every up, every down. It's a learning experience. Not every meet's gonna be perfect, and you have to be able to move on and keep competing even with the bad performances, because in the end, you're gonna do what you want to succeed in.
I think the mental block in track is the toughest part. So once you really find like your event that you love showing up for and love stepping on the track for and want to compete in and do good in, that'll help you throughout your whole journey. And just stay positive and don't just worry about track. Worry about the friends too, because it's going to be good.
Very nice. I want to say on behalf of the board, we want to thank you girls. You guys represented your school, our district, amazing. I can put Mike on the spot here, Mr. Bromley. When's the last time that's happened, 2 state repeats like that?
Have we had any, Nick? Sheldon, so Sheldon for outdoor and then indoor track. Okay.
So very, very rarely.
So one boy and then this group of 4 young ladies.
No pressure to get a third then.
They're all coming back?
They're gonna get it.
So we're very proud of you. By the looks on your parents' faces, that you represented your families very well too. So thank you girls for doing that. Being a student athlete is not easy. Trying to keep up on your schoolwork, going this long into a season, having to deal with Coach Burke, I'm sure it's not easy either. But that's just stands to your character, your determination, and your dedication. So thank you girls very much. So we have a certificate for each of you. First up, Charisma Westcott. Stay right up there. We're gonna grab a picture here. And we have Addison O'Donnell. Congratulations. And Nevaeh Thomas. Congratulations. And Miss Ella Shea. Picture. Yep. John, I'm asking a picture. There we go. I got it. Perfect. Congratulations.
Thank you.
July, right? Yep. For outdoor? Okay. So what was the relay? Who went first? Who ended it?
I went first.
Addie and then Nevaeh.
Okay. And then you brought it home at the end?
Yep.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys very much. Coach Buck, Coach Burke, anything to say about them?
Second fastest time, second fastest history.
Excellent.
They're an amazing group, and sky's the limit for these 4.
Well, thank you. Thank you girls again. We'll get you out of here early so you can get some free dinner off your parents for Wednesday. Thank you girls.
Thank you.
Thank you all. shoes to fill to follow on that one, Mr. Kessler.
I know, come on.
All right, we have Mr. Kessler up for our John Kennedy and, and Mrs. Jordan Brandt, our AP, for our John Kennedy report.
I'm old enough to remember those girls when they were in second grade, so, yeah. All right, well, thanks for having us tonight. We have our JK update. I'm Paul Kessler, principal at John Kennedy, and this is Jordan Brandt, our assistant principal. So we're gonna tag team together. We're gonna do a little bit of a different presentation tonight. We wanted to walk you through a little bit of what a typical professional learning team activity might look like. So Mr. Smith had, I don't know, a couple weeks back said that his dream was to have the board get a chance to walk through what one of those meetings would look like. And I said, well, maybe I can make your dream come true tonight. So we'll abbreviate it, but we're going to give you a chance to look at some data that the teachers would look at and talk through that tonight. But we'll do a couple of overview highlights from John Kennedy. So we're going to start with a video that our coach Jen Sloan worked on with Allie Elliott and then with us on the content, just to give a little bit of an overview of our PLC work at John Kennedy.
The Guiding Coalition team meets twice a month to support and strengthen instructional practices. Last month, the team analyzed Luis Cruz's tight PLT rubric to evaluate the effectiveness of their professional learning teams. Members discussed their findings as a whole group and identified clear next steps for improvement. The team decided that each PLT will also complete the rubric to reflect on their own practices and guide future growth. The second grade PLT celebrated the end of the module with an engaging, hands-on learning experience for students. Students rotated through theme centers, including quilt designing, covered wagon rides, and Oregon Trail activities. They also participated in a marble game and taste-tested applesauce and cornbread to connect learning to real-life experiences. The celebration provided an interactive way for students to apply and extend their understanding of the module content. The third grade team began unpacking essential ELA standards to build a deeper understanding of the expectations for student learning. They started by examining Module 1 of Wit and Wisdom, identifying where the essential standards are taught within the lessons. The team chose this module because they are familiar with the content and lessons, allowing them to efficiently begin the work and get a head start for next year. Next steps include developing common formative assessments aligned to the identified essential standards. The fourth grade team has been working to reach consensus on a common formative assessment for standard 4.NF.1. The math instructional coach first reviewed and vetted potential assessment questions before bringing them to the team. The team then analyzed each question together, discussing and critiquing them one by one. Team members provided suggestions, the math coach revised the questions, and the team is continuing to review and respond to the updates via email to reach final consensus before their next meeting. The Guiding Coalition identified a Tier 1 concern in third grade related to students' mastery of foundation skills. An intervention inventory was administered to all third grade students to determine which specific skills needed additional support. Reading teachers use the data to group students and provide targeted support through Level 1 and Level 2 Foundations intervention groups. Special area teachers reviewed the real criteria to identify the most important essential standards within the 5th grade standards for their content areas. Teachers are currently unpacking the selected standards to gain a deeper understanding of the skills and concepts students need to master. Teachers are also beginning to design lessons and plan instruction aligned to these essential standards for implementation next year.
Okay, so that just gives you an overview of some of the work that we're doing. We're going to refer back to that a little bit. One of the things that you saw was that it was referring to Foundations, which Foundations is our phonics and phonemic awareness program, kindergarten right up through 3rd grade. And so we're struggling with some of that data, so we'll talk a little bit later about how we use our PLC process to make some adjustments with that. So we're working on our strategic plan, but we did want to highlight some of the holistic fun things that we have going on at JK. So Mrs. Brandt's going to highlight a few things that we've been working on this year.
Yes, so we've had lots of great family and community events so far this year, as well as some great events for our students that happened during the school day. So one of the events that we ran back in January as an incentive when students took their iReady benchmarks in January was, we called it Crushing iReady. And so Mr. Kessler and I got full Orange Crush costumes, and we did an incentive for all the students who showed improvement on their assessment. So they take these benchmarks 3 times a year, September, January, and June. And so we weren't necessarily looking for the students who had the highest scores, but the students who showed the most improvement on their scores from September to January. And we treated all of those students to Orange Crush ice cream floats in the cafeteria after the benchmarks were over, and that was a real hit. And then another really fun program we've got going on right now is that our STEAM teacher, Melissa Klander, has been working with the Genesee County Economic Development Center and Chris Cooley to help some of our 4th grade students create their own comic universes and comic characters. So that's been a really fun opportunity for those students to showcase their creative side, but also hone in on those STEAM and tech skills as well. This is me.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is just kind of a snapshot of what student discipline has looked like so far this year. As of putting together this presentation, we have received 196 total discipline referrals on the school year so far. You can see the majority of those that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis are bus referrals. That's pretty similar to the data that I showed you last year. The bus is just a harder area to monitor. There's less adults present. It's not our JK staff that's present. So just a little bit of a different environment there. And then you can see some of the other areas that have been kind of heavily hit this year so far with referrals.
All right, so our theme is challenge accepted, and we use it quite often. We want our students to be able to do hard things, but also that means that we as adults have to do hard things too. And so as Jordan and I were thinking about what are some of the challenges that we're working on at John Kennedy is obviously we're starting to think about the best way to transition our 5th graders back into an elementary setting. And so we've already started to plan for that. It'll probably be a little bit of an adjustment for the teachers to move from maybe a middle school style to an elementary style. But we know from the parents that we've heard and my personal opinion is that 5th graders are really still elementary students. And so we're excited about that. Our students really won't know any different because it's our current 4th graders. So it's not like they've been to another school and are coming back to one. Definitely like 5th graders are heading into adolescence. So there's, some different kinds of challenges that are coming along there. And so we're working on that. We're even, looking at our discipline systems to make sure that we're prepared for any challenges that come with that. And then last year we were really proud of getting the designation of a promising practices school that required an application that we had to do, and they looked at our student data and our growth. And so the next step in the process is after typically it's 2 to 3 years of them looking at your program and data looking to be a model PLC school. I think that's a realistic goal for JK, and we're really excited about the work that our teachers are doing to help us move in that direction.
Mr. Kessler, real
Yes.
quick, You mentioned discipline systems, and
Yeah.
the last slide was the referrals. How is that versus last year? Is that comparable last year? Is it up? Is it down?
Yeah, it's very similar to last year. You know, one of the things that really proud of, like, we call it our student support team. So it includes Jordan and myself, but it's also our counselors and social worker and such, is to really try to work with teachers on the front end. You know, and got one of our teachers here, but like, our teachers are really good in saying, like, listen, you know, so-and-so has really been struggling at lunch, you know, seems to constantly have drama and what have you. Would you come down and work with me on that situation? And so, you know, and actually Mr. Madu and I were talking about that really the best way to do it is for it to be a collective effort, where the teachers aren't saying that's the administrator's problem, and for the administrators to say teachers need to handle all of this on their own, but that we would be collectively working on it. But it's pretty similar to last year. In terms of discipline, probably our biggest challenge is the segment of kids that really struggle with regulation. You know, and so it's maybe not necessarily like an individual conflict or moment, but it's, you know, really trying to, when they emotionally like can't handle a letdown or something like that, and our team responding to that. So that doesn't necessarily show up in our discipline numbers, but it, you know, does show up in our day-to-day support for students.
Do you find the cooperation with the families? Obviously, we're contacting them with this. Do you find that the cooperation's there with the families? Are we getting them? You mentioned the administrators, the teachers. Are we bringing in that third branch there, the parents, and getting them involved?
Yeah, most of the time. I mean, you know, one of the things that we're finding is that more and more parents are saying, I'm having the same struggle at home. You know, they're looking to us for resources. So, you know, often, you know, they're saying like, yeah, I've been seeing this for 6 months, Mr. Kessler. Like, you know, and so, you know, so I think a lot of the work is, you know, parents need help. You know, there's been you know, just a lot of changes in terms of society and such, and you know, kids struggling with things that maybe I had seen more, you know, 13 or 14-year-old struggle with, that now we're seeing a 7 or 8-year-old. But I think our parents are looking for help in a lot of ways. You know, maybe some of them aren't, you know, quite as skilled, and so, you know, they need a partner a lot of times. Okay.
I think you
What am I on? Did I cover it? All right.
Yeah. We
Okay.
already talked about problems.
Okay. All right. All right. So what we wanted to do tonight is to just do an abbreviated PLT meeting with you. All right. So you're the teachers tonight, and so Jordan's handing you some student data that often we would look at the beginning of the meeting, and there would be some problem solving there. So I'm going to let Jordan kind of walk you through the process that we would use, but you're going to need that data in front of you because you're going to be making some assessments on what we might need to look at.
I know the print is small, I'm sorry, I got it as big as I could.
I thought it was just me.
I got it as big as I could. Okay, so what I have up on the screen right now, make this a little bit bigger if I can. So this is the agenda that all of our grade level PLT meetings, as well as our reading PLT and our special area PLT, use every time that they meet. So some of the things we're not gonna kind of use today in our simulation are, all of the members present would be assigned roles, a facilitator, recorder, timekeeper, and then active participants in the meeting. They go over the team norms every meeting. This was something that we actually found in year 3 we had kind of drifted away from. And so we've kind of made a big effort this year to go back to reading those team norms and going over them at the beginning of every meeting, because it does make a big difference in kind of just the culture and feel of the room before the meeting starts.
What's the team norm?
So the team norms are listed right here. So being respectful of the start and end times of the meeting, presuming positive intentions, being an active participant, avoiding side conversations, using electronics, and then being solution-oriented and open to new ideas.
That's where the members are.
Yeah, so all of our different teams have these same norms that they use at every meeting. We use these for our district, or our building guiding coalition meetings as well. So there's 4 PLC questions. The ones I've highlighted in blue are kind of where we're gonna land in the data that we're looking at today. So how will we know when they've learned the material? So for the data that you're looking at, it's foundations data that Mr. Kessler had referenced before. So our benchmark that actually Foundations gives out for mastery of the content is 80%. So we want 80% of our students to have achieved 80% on their assessments. So that's how we'll know they've learned it. And then question number 3, what will we do for the students who haven't learned it? So that's kind of the big question when we're reviewing data that our teams are looking at is where do we go for our students who still haven't mastered this material? So that's kind of where we're gonna land today. And then in the 4-week PLC cycle, this particular simulation meeting would kind of be week 4, where we're looking at data and discussing it with the protocol, which is the other sheet that you have in your hand. All right, so the data that we have shared, maybe it'll be easier to look at on the screen. I'll kind of blow it up too. All right. So this is Foundations data, as I referenced earlier. So there's students 1 through 10 here, and it breaks down each and every place where they could have earned a point on their end of unit assessment for Foundations. So blue 1 means they got it correct and earned that point. The only other option is red 0. So there's nothing in between. They either got the point or they didn't. And then their average score for the assessment is over here in the right-hand column. So what we'd like you to do is, on the data protocol form that I passed out, we're just gonna kind of live in these 3 questions that I highlighted in yellow, because we could be here all night if we spent time looking through the whole form. But if you could just take a few minutes kind of looking over that data and answer those 3 questions on the bottom there. So based on the data, what do you see different from student to student? Just kind of what do you notice? What are the implications of this information? So what might this mean moving forward instructionally? And then what's the plan? Where do we go from here? So I'll give you a few minutes to kind of look at that data, and I'll put it back up here too so it's bigger for you. This is 3rd grade data. 3rd grade data, yes. So this is actually from one of those targeted intervention groups that we were talking about in the video that were developed when we looked at the Tier 1 3rd grade data.
When it comes to, so I understand sounds, words, trick words, what is marking?
Yeah, so marking is students indicating that that they know which sounds are coming together. So like brunch, you could see is like, you know, probably you noticed the trend that like, that was the one kids fell down on.
And then quilt.
And you know, so that they would mark up that the CH is creating its own sound.
Okay.
And that's in there. That the B and the R to get, you know, can be scooped together. And so that marking is important because it's telling the teacher, does the student just know the word brunch, or do they know like the individual sounds that are in brunch? that was a good notice on,
Yes.
you know, that it was the same word, but like,
Yeah,
that the kids
pretty much
got the
everybody
word
missed
right,
it.
Yeah.
but how they mark it up.
We can kind of start some conversation if everybody's ready, and if not, feel free to just chime in when you are, but if we just start by looking at that question 1, so how does the data differ from student to student, or just generally kind of what did you notice while looking at the data? Yeah.
I was thinking student number 10 maybe was either absent or had like a major family thing going on and just couldn't focus and concentrate.
Or they know the words but don't know how to scoot them together the way she's describing it. So they can, they
Yeah.
know the word bunch, but when you're asked to chunk it, to mark it together, they
Yeah.
can't do that. But they know what the word is.
Yeah, so they might know that word by sight, just by memorization, but that they can't
Or how it fits in a
break
sentence.
that down, yeah.
They need to reteach the bunch thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
agreed. So a piece that our teachers really look at when they're looking at student data is, what does the whole class need to be retaught, and what do just a few students need? Because those whole class pieces tell us, okay, we've got to kind of backtrack for a minute here and look at the big picture on, that's a reflection of me as a teacher, right? As opposed to that individual student, just not quite grasping that concept.
And that
Yeah.
quilt word, half of the students didn't understand that lesson either.
Yeah, so that's another one that I would say, like, whole group, we've got to go back and reteach that.
Would you anticipate that you would give the student number 10 individual teaching?
So
Or
because this represents a group amongst a lot of groups, it's going to lead us into our next slide in a minute on what we do with our win time.
Okay.
But
Okay.
that's the natural question is like, what do you do with student number 10, right?
But then what do you do with 1 and 2? Because they've got it all.
Exactly,
Right.
right? So, yeah, so that leads into win time too. That's why that time's differentiated, so.
So we could just segue into
Yeah,
win time, that's
yeah,
probably good.
yeah. You know, so there, and those were good discussion points, is like, when you're looking at data, you're almost asking questions, wondering like, all right, did this student miss a lot of school? Is that why, like, he or she missed it? Or, you know, is there sounds they're not hearing? Is there reteaching that needs to happen? You know, and so those are all part of the discussion on what do we as teachers think, like, are the reasons, you know, and then breaking off and saying, okay, what do we do for the students that already know it? Because, you know, you could see there were 4 students on there that, like, right across the board, got all the points that are there. And that's what we use our win time for. And so we have a 30-minute period of time for English Language Arts win time every day and for math win time every day. And we actually started win time, I'm going to say about 12, 13 years ago. So before even the PLT process, with the same concept of, you know, how do we create a time where the students that already know that, right, are allowed to extend in the standard at the same time while supporting, let's say, student number 10 in a similar group. And so during our win time, that's when we have about 7 or 8 teachers at each grade level, and so we're kind of able to split the group in half and then have our AIS reading or math teachers in the mix so that we can create some groups based on what they might need. And so, and actually this group that you saw right here are actually, because this is a past standard for most of the students, and so we said let's put them in this group. So on a good note, like, a lot of effectiveness had happened, that these students are now passing this unit, but then there's still some that are not getting it. And so that allows us, when we regroup, to say, all right, student 1 and 2 might be ready for a different grouping the next time, you know, while student 10 and I think like student 6 and 7, you know, might still need that additional support.
But this is data only from one teacher and one.
Yeah, so we're just giving you an example
Yeah.
of that.
So in that general discussion, they each of the people that are in that, teachers that are in that group would have this broken down by each of the other teachers also.
Yes.
So is that when a lesson, let's say, for lack of knowing all the teachers' names,
Yeah.
Miss Smith had all of her kids learn the bunch thing.
Mhm.
Would she then do a lesson for a teacher, help this teacher who's having the issue with the bunch kids, best practice?
Yes, so she might. I'm going to give an example without naming names of a situation where we had a newer teacher that said my students, this wasn't on foundations, but this was on answering short answer questions, just aren't seeming to like elaborate on their answers. And another teacher, and I will name his name, Mr. Madhu, that said, hey, this is what I have my kids do. I have them, you know, I take all the names off of them, but they have to like peer assess. Why don't you come over to my room, we'll tag team together. So they've actually now done like 3 joint lessons where he's modeling that, obviously a more experienced teacher and such. And I wish I could read you the text that the newer teacher just was talking about, like the improvement she saw in the students, and they've created a kind of a friendly competition now.
Well, she
you
must
know.
feel also that she learned a lot from that lesson.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, so that's all part of that, right? And so like her skill of seeing something just done a different way, right? There's certainly a lot of value add to that versus like me saying like, let me just give you this nice article that will tell you, you know, like there's some value to that, but you know, that is part of the collaborative nature of it. What differentiates a PLC philosophy from like anywhere else is the word we that's there, you know, is that I'm interested in our 3rd grade data, not just Mr. Madhu or Ms. Smith's data, or, you know. So, yeah, so that's a good question.
So you talked about the data. How often are you collecting data and like coming together to talk about it? Like how can...
Yeah, it depends. So the foundations data, each unit is about 3 or 4 weeks. So they're testing their, you know, all the time. For, you know, if you're talking about math, they have a common assessment, usually every 3 to 4 weeks.
So is when adjusted then like monthly based on what they need? Is there big changes or not really?
So the classroom teachers will make some adjustments like sometimes every 3 or 4 weeks. If they're going to like a reading or a math teacher, we usually try to wait about 2 months before doing that. You know, there's advantages and disadvantages, but if you move kids around too much, that relationship that they need to form with the teacher, you know, isn't there if they're switching every, you know, 3 or 4 weeks. But like I said, like I'm this one individual student, right? The teacher could say, hey, I think he or she would fit right now in a different group because I'm ready to move on with these other 9 kids. So we're flexible enough that we're able to make those adjustments. All right, so hopefully that was helpful to you, just you know, kind of look at a day in the life of our PLT meetings. I want to reiterate that really our John Kennedy teachers, just they put a lot of time and effort into really looking at it, on having a collective pride in what we do. I'm just really proud of them. As always, I'm really thankful for the support that, you know, now 21 years in, that John Kennedy's received from the board. You know, so thank you, everyone. And do you have any other questions for us?
Did you come up with what's the plan? Like, what is the plan? Because that was the last question, is I'm curious to know what the plan is going forward.
Yeah, so this data specifically hasn't been reviewed by the team yet. It was pretty recent data that we pulled for you guys. But My guess would be that the plan is pretty similar to what we just talked about, that one student clearly needs more support, those 2 students are ready to fly into the next group, and everybody else will just kind of keep plugging away in that same group.
But
That would be my guess.
an example of what would happen with a question like that, I'm going to stick with 3rd grade, is when they were reviewing their math data, they really recognized like the automaticity of subtraction was like really an issue at 3rd grade, and that like how essential that was. And so they decided that all their WIN groups were really going to focus in on subtraction with regrouping, you know, to see if we can get that to be automatic. You know, and they're doing that with all the facts. And they, I want to say probably every 2 weeks, they were rechecking the same data to see the progress of the students that we had. So that's kind of an example of like, what do we do? Like, we recognize a major issue, and that's what we do.
And worst case scenario, and I've had this discussion with Molly, so what about number 10? What happens if we don't get to where we need to be?
So the answer to that is more students, more of the time, right? And so that might be a student that, if that student learned more of the time, right? Because, you know, and so like that, yes, that student hasn't reached the standard yet, but no, we're not gonna just leave that student there. You know, is he or she getting more and more of the time? You know, but there are students that really do struggle with the grade level standard, you know, but for them, more of the time, you know, with the idea that, you know, if you look at the general research over the last 20 years, the most important factor of students graduating, student success, is really on getting them as close to on grade level in terms of reading in 3rd grade.
Right.
Some of it says 4th grade, some of it says 3rd grade, if you
Because
look
I
at
think
it.
that's always my question to Molly, is so you have these kids who aren't quite there, but they still have to go on, and if they're already starting out behind, how do you catch them up?
So they're gonna continue to be in those targeted intervention groups until they've caught back up to grade level. So just because they're not reaching that skill doesn't mean that we're gonna just throw them back in with everyone else. So they're going to keep getting that win time at their specific level, you know, all the way up, in our case, through 4th grade when they leave us. And our hope is that for those students, they would be making more than 1 year's progress in a year, in hopes that we're getting them back towards grade level.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for being good students. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all, Ms. Jordan.
All right, our next presentation, we have our Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Dr. Corey.
I'm going to expand a little bit on what you heard from John Kennedy and maybe fill in some of the gaps, because the reality is the PLT stuff is happening in all schools, and as a district, like my job is to look collectively at how is each school doing, and I'd like to try to hone in on how is each grade doing, because that's where the PLTs are. And you know, I work closely with the principals to make sure that we're doing things, but I also work with the instructional coaches. I mean, they're boots on the ground, and sometimes they see things at kind of like a low level, and they brainstorm how can we get better. And I meet with them almost every Friday, and we come together across all of the schools to share what they're seeing, and we look at data and different things. What I'd like to say though is that for me, to see this strategic plan really come to life and be a living, breathing document in all the schools is really important. When I first started here, we had experts recommend that we have a strategic plan, and we didn't until we started the plan in 2022. Before that, we would have goals, but the goals changed, and you've probably heard from people that they're always doing something different. You can't say that anymore. You know, we're really going deeper with what we're doing, and you know, we have the 4 goal areas that encompass a lot of what you heard with the collaborative culture, making sure that we've got a curriculum that everybody understands, and then using teaching strategies in their classroom. But it comes to life in each school in a couple different ways. We added how it will look with some teams working together. 'Cause we wanted to make sure the school teams had people that were helping to move the work forward. We're in year 3 of our 3-year plan with Solution Tree. We started off with learning mostly about essentials. We moved into analyzing the data, and this year we've gotten into like what it means to have extensions and supports, the MTSS process, and that's where some of the questions have come from. I think you could hear, if you remember all of the presentations from the past few years, we really are getting deeper with the work, and you can see it, and I'm going to bring to life what it looks like in another school, and I'm really excited that every school has really advanced with this work. We've had a deep commitment from teams going to learn in the summer. It's sometimes the best time to think about something new and how it's going to come to work in your school. And we've had coaches along the way. We added some extra coaching this year based on somebody we met, Barb Phillips. She was at the summer conference and everybody just loved her. And she's a New Yorker. She came from a PLT district down in the southern tier and has actually left teaching to work for Solution Tree. She's going to continue with us next year. We signed on for 2 more years. There's still some questions that haven't been answered, and Solution Tree is offering 2 more years of guidance with support from the coach. We signed on for that, and we're going to be able to fund that through our BOCES budget. You've heard in your sessions about the commitment that it takes with really starting with you guys, the superintendent and the board, and I can say that that has helped us in small ways. The one thing that we've added this year, we just kicked it off in January, is having vertical PLTs. Because Jen, that's an area where sometimes teachers can come together to answer when the kids aren't making progress the way we want them to. We have a deeper commitment with it next year with our calendar, but the reality is, so one of the PLTs that we started in January is, we call it vertical foundation skills. So Mr. Kessler said that they start with foundations in kindergarten and it goes through 3rd grade. Well, that is such a critical piece of learning. If they don't learn how to read by the 3rd grade, then they really continue to struggle, and we've seen that in some of our middle school scores for a while. And so what we're doing with this vertical team is we're having everybody talk about those kids that really struggle. We've brought together the reading teachers and the special education teachers, and we want them working together on what they know about what the kids are supposed to be doing, and it's been well received. It's 2 groups that have never really collaborated before. They should have, and they're valuing the time, and they're excited to know that we're going to go deeper with it. They did some of the same work that we've been talking about, and we're adding it to the Batavia curriculum site, and that's another piece of the puzzle of where are we putting all the good things that we do. And almost everything lives here, and I go and spot check it when I can, but what I'm grateful for is that the principals and the teams are really utilizing it as well. So the documents that you saw from Mr. Kessler are loaded on the site, and the ones I'm going to show you next are there as well. What's neat about this place is, like, when you have a Google Doc, like you guys might have made one as a board member, if you make something on your personal Google account, it's yours. And if you aren't a board member here anymore, that account kind of goes away. We've made this site so that it's timeless. I'm not the owner, Antonio's not the owner, a teacher isn't the owner, Batavia is. So if a teacher leaves or somebody's not there, the documents will stay there and live there and not go away if somebody leaves. This year with MTSS, this was a big document that the Solution Tree PDs that we've had has really focused on. And that helps to see kind of what it looks like in a school setting. They call it the upside down triangle. And tier 1 is what you want to see in the classroom. And you can see they've divided it into 2 things. The teacher has a big responsibility of what happens in the classroom, but they want to make sure that the guiding coalition is keenly aware and that looking at some of the data points, the universal screeners, the iReady that they're talking about, making sure that there's supports and access when people need additional assistance. That guiding coalition team really helps to set that up so that you have the structure in place in their master schedule. What I wanted to point out is when you're thinking about intervention, they've really expanded it. And it's not just academics that Solution Tree has helped us with this year. You know, you've heard a lot about how the students have changed, and they've added, you know, really looking at social, emotional behaviors. Home and health is really attendance. Those are important factors that play a big part of this puzzle. And if kids aren't coming to school, or if their behavior's causing them to disrupt learning for others, you know, we have to have a response to how we do it. And you're seeing that live in the plans for schools. I started what I called a year at a glance, gosh, a long time ago. And it started as just a document. I wanted teachers to be aware of what school looks like across the months. Some months we have a lot of full weeks of school with 5 days, and other months we really don't. And that's only a part of it. I took a snip so you could see it. But what I wanted you to see from it is it's become a living, breathing document as part of their cohort spreadsheet. This is first grades, and this year they've added a PLT tab to it. And I think that that speaks to just what a commitment this PLT process really is. You know exactly what they're doing and when they're doing it. I blocked off the teacher names, but each teacher has a tab as well, so that you can scroll to see who did really, really well with it, and you know, so that they can help each other. And I would think that the collaboration really, truly is changing across all of the schools. Then when you look a little bit closer at that PLT tab, they have their essentials for math and they have their essentials for ELA. And what makes me, you know, we gave them some recommended documents to use, but they really made it their own. They wanted to make it useful so they could really use it. So when you click on any of the standards that they pick, what it takes you to is a slide for just that standard. It has the essential broken down, has the agenda for when they're going to be talking about it, has the calendar of what it's going to look like when they're teaching it. The assessments, the formative and summative are here. Has the data once they have it, and the resources that will help you when you're teaching that. Every teacher said that it was hard to get all of that together for one standard, and they found a way to make that happen. These are all hot links to it. So here's an example of the data. When they gave their pre-assessment in January, about 50% overall had mastered. It was 77 out of 154. And they broke it down to, there were some that were close to being on. They came up with cut points for it. I blocked off the teacher names. They had some that were near it, and then they had some that were far from it. And that's where they had to develop the plan of how are we going to help these kids to get further along with it. At the end, 84% have mastered. Now, they didn't all get there, but more are moving where they want it to be, and they're responding to it. With that upside down triangle, some of the kids that are far, quite honestly, are ones who just their behaviors are causing them to not be able to learn when everybody else is learning. So win time has shifted. I think many of the schools, I don't want to say all just yet, but they're using this book called Behavioral Solutions. And some of the win time is to help kids learn what it means to be a student and how to get control of their behavior, so when they're back in the classroom, they're more on task to where we want them to be. You know, it's not meant to be a long, but there's some kids who really need to know what does that mean so that they're not disrupting learning for others. And that's become part of what we do. We've brought students into it at the middle school and high school to help with peer mediation. You know, we're finding that helps when a peer says to them, hey, you know, when you do that in class, it disrupts us from learning. They might talk about it and they're having circles, and we're seeing that it does have an impact. And we think collectively, if we keep at this, you know, we're going to have more kids following what we want them to be doing. And now I'm going to move into where are we at with our scores. You know, for English language arts, I put several years. The green shows from this last year the improvements that we've made. We have several grade levels that are trending upward in that direction. We've had a few struggles at some grade levels where we've had some teacher changes. You know, we're constantly attending to that, and we know that, you know, we're not where we want to be just yet. Cohort data, we have cohorts that are still showing that they're growing with us and giving us good information to watch. And with regard to where we compare, we've gone back to the same list that we've used to compare our data against other small cities. And we like that as a guide, sort of. What I want to show you is that, you know, we're following the same thing for math. So I didn't lose. Math, we've had several grade levels continue to make really good strides. That's the first PLT that we really started doing. You know, so we're in year 3 of using math as a guide. The math cohorts are showing some are making really big gains. What I wanted to show you is this is a sample graph that we get where we compare ourselves to the region. What we're noticing is the priorities that we're picking are the tallest graphs, and they're really standing out. That's telling us that what we're doing with that PLT process is working. In year 1, we started with 1 standard. In year 2, we generally wanted to have 3 successful cycles, a fall, a winter, a spring. We're adding more cycles to it, and we're seeing that our data is showing that it's trending in that right direction. I have the same comparison against the small cities where we stand. Overall, ELA, we've been first using this comparison list for quite some time. And we know we still want to grow. Math is very similar. We trended into second just this last year. So we decided to, you know, update the list. PLTs matter to us, so we went and pulled. These are districts that are PLT districts. We're using that as a comparison now. We want to make sure and see how are we comparing against others that are doing the same thing. There's some real high-performing districts that are giving us some things to look at. You know, on the All Things PLC website, we can see their master schedules. We can see how they do win. We have contacts to go to their principals and visit if we want to. We're scheduling some of that now, but we want this comparison to help move the bar forward. We think we've done what we can with the small cities, and we want to just keep growing with that, and our teachers want to learn from other PLT schools. There's not a Rochester professional learning community conference like we went to the last 2 years, but GB BOCES is working with us. We're going to host our own. We're going to have it at the RIT Conference Center, so we're going to be able to take a lot of our teachers to that. It's going to be much, much cheaper. We're going to have a guest speaker from Solution Tree. We're going to have breakout sessions just on a smaller scale. It'll be a one-day event to help keep growing that work. What questions do you have for me?
I'm not familiar with the behavior solutions that you were discussing, and how you were saying that most often that the kids that are having the most trouble are having the behaviors. But have we deciphered whether they are having their behaviors and therefore they are not doing well, or they're so frustrated because they're not doing well, they're having their behaviors?
So we always want to go deeper with particular students. This behavior solutions book, Solution Tree wrote it on the top 10 behaviors that they're seeing across the nation. And what it does is it breaks down what is the behavior, what should it look like and sound like, and what do you do when kids are presenting as needing support with this. So that's serving as research-based stuff that we can use during that win time. You know, I always like to talk to kids and find out what's behind, because sometimes it's something that you just don't even know. You know, and I would say that I think every school has teams that are responding to try to learn what is the narrative for that student so that they can truly help. And by looking at a lot of data more often, I think they're starting to see trends with it. Like in the set that Mr. Kessler showed, there was really just one piece, that marking up, that was really where kids were falling down. That's quite helpful to know, you know, to have the granular details across the unit. It helps you to know who's where. And in the tabs that we have, you can see how individual teachers do, and then against the whole. That's also helpful, because it helps you to know where there's the whole grade level at. But when you've got kind of a rock star teacher, and I don't think Antonio will mind, he became really competitive with the state assessment 8 or 9 years ago. And he was at one of my PDs, and I gave an example from when I was teaching, and he took it and he just made it his own. And when I looked at his scores against the rest of the peers, like double what everybody else was. And that kind of started like, wow, what did you do? And he used gaming, and they started to share, and we had principals schedule so that they would talk about different things at different teams, and it just slowly grew over time. I mean, we've had WIN for a long time. We've had some of the pieces in place. What we didn't have was that collaboration. So, do you agree? And I think that now as we watch and see things trend, it's that really working together. And if we can bring the teachers in who really help work with the neediest, hardest kids at times, you know, who are a puzzle to what's happening, you know, special ed working together with reading, like they've never before had time to talk and look at their student data and come together. And my hope is that we're going to keep getting more of the kids who need us the most, by also having the extensions for those who are ready for it. You know, there are certain kids who they just do so because we say so. They like to learn. They're natural at what they do, and they need a push. And we're finding that they're willing to take that challenge as well. So, you know, the work is never going to be done. You know, I'm working on a grant now that can help bring behavioral specialists to the schools because there's really a need. You know, the administrators run around a lot, almost during the day. We want them focusing on instruction more than behavior. So if we can get extra support for that, it'll help just to bring the puzzle together a little bit more and hopefully alleviate some of the, I hate to call it hurriedness of what happens, but it, you know, at different schools, you know, it can be challenging. We've had interims helping us recently who said, oh my gosh, do you experience, you know, they're just running all day with some things that are happening. And it's, you know, there's some societal trends. We don't have all of the answers, but if we can work together with additional resources and find ways to try to just make kids aware and want to own their part, I think that, you know, it's that collective commitment to improving. Does that help?
Kind of, yeah.
So with all these extra needs, we had, listened to Taro here just a couple months ago and gave us a presentation on working with the APs and introducing them to so many of the county resources and the other resources. Are we utilizing them if our needs are so high?
We're trying
I asked
to.
Mr. Kessler, you know, are we getting the parents involved? And there has to be that balance where we're educating and, you know, if there's those resources available in the community between the county and whatnot, are we getting the parents involved with those?
We're trying to. You know, each school has family nights, and the family nights often have some teach pieces to it. They've had an SEL family night in every school, and that's where they try to work with parents on what they're seeing, show them how to use the circle approach, how to talk to kids. Like sometimes you get into a power struggle and you're not changing the behavior, and learning how to do that can be tricky. You know, television hasn't helped us either. The snarkiness and some of the shows where kids think it's okay to talk to adults the way they do. It's, you know, we've probably all felt it a little bit with our own kids, but we see it in schools, and you know, I think we're doing what we can with that. You know, there's always a little bit more. You know, time is just that precious commodity. If we could get more parents into school more often to learn some things and really work together, but I think we do have the collective commitment to, you know, the SEL liaisons help with things, the social workers are helping, we have counselors that connect, we work with a lot of outside agencies as well, we drive them to places. You know, we're doing what we can, but there's probably always a little bit more.
I know in the middle school, with respect to the capital project, Dr. Krines are making room for some of these outside agencies that are on the school. They honestly need more space.
Yeah.
So when Andy and I did the tour during one of the breaks, she had mentioned that these outside agencies, I can't think of all of them right now, but there's 2 or 3, you know, that have actual larger space. Horizon, we have
Liberty. Upward Bound. You know, we definitely have a commitment by adults that want to help kids, and it's just sometimes space, sometimes time.
We have You Connect here at least once a week. Formerly known as Jacasa, Barb's organization. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Corey.
Thank you.
We do the same
Business Administrator to give us an updated final draft budget overview.
Yes. All right. So here we are in the budget calendar process. Again, today we're just going to do a continued budget review. We took some input that the board provided at the last budget work session, made some changes, and hopefully today we're presenting to you a balanced budget. So we'll go through that and all the changes that we've made since we last met. So on the revenue side, really no changes except for the fact that we are showing in this final draft of the budget a 2% tax levy increase. Previous budget drafts we've used different increases, but this increase in the final draft of the budget we've included a 2% increase. Again, the same amount relatively appropriated fund balance and reserves, and then we're not showing really any significant changes from the last time we presented the budget in regards to the state revenue sources, which again, state aid, those expenditure-driven aids, foundation aid, all lumped together in the state sources. This is just a graphical representation of kind of the percentage of where the district receives the majority of its revenue from. So the two largest sources of revenue the district receives, 57% is in the form of state aid, and then 21% is in the form of the tax levy. So really the other two forms of revenue, other revenue, and then appropriated fund balance really only equates to about 11% of total revenue. So the lion's share is in the form of the real property tax levy and then the state aid. So in regards to the tax levy, I know at our last budget session we went over some scenarios in regards to the tax rate impact as a result of the tax levy. Again, the board authorizes the total amount of general fund budget. That budget includes a tax levy, and then that tax levy is part of the calculation in determining the tax rate. That is how it's levied to each of our residents. And so this is again just a small chart, chart showing the impact of the tax rate on the home valued at $100,000 and then $200,000. So again, this is a 2% tax levy increase, or $415,000. And as you can see, it's going to be about $33.40 for the city of Batavia and town of Batavia, and possibly $38.84 for the town of Stafford for that home valued at $100,000, and then $66.79 for town of Batavia, city of Batavia for a home valued at $200,000, and then $77.68 in the town of Stafford for a home valued at $200,000. Again, these tax rates assume no changes in assessed values or equalization rates from the prior year. So this is kind of an apples to apples comparison of the tax rate from the prior year. This could change once finalized assessments are done and we receive the finalized tax roll, usually in July. So this could be subject to change. Hopefully, if assessments increase, that tax rate would decrease. Okay.
When do those usually come out?
The finalized assessment rolls are usually July.
July, thank you.
We receive it finalized. This is just a chart showing prior year's tax levy increases and then the percentage change in the levy, and then the average of those increases and percentage increases. So as you can see, 26-27 is showing the current 2% tax levy increase. So with that factored in, our 3-year average is just a little over 2%, 2.16% for the average of 3-year increase. 5-year average is 1.7, 8-year average is 1.4, 10 is 1.3, and 13 is 1.2% increase in the total tax levy. On the expenditure side, based on our discussion at the last budget session, we have made some adjustments on the expenditure side. The top items remain unchanged. We still have, unfortunately, a 30% increase in health insurance. We still have an increased number of students that require special education outplacements. We have a relatively small increase in foundation aid, which is impacting the revenue side of the budget. We have some settlement agreements in regards to our collective bargaining agreements. We do have some other contracts that we're negotiating as well. Transitioning some of our services, currently our communication services over to BCSD. We're adjusting our facilities equipment and contractual costs, so we have dialed back some of our equipment purchases, and we've also taken out some of the projects that we would like to have gotten done through the general fund budget next year. Some of those lower priority, we still are maintaining some of the higher priority items, and we want to make sure to get in there. We do have some 4 pending teacher retirements. Of those 4 retirements, as of right now, we are anticipating not replacing one of those retirements. We have an elementary retirement that we don't believe we'll need to replace. We have, as we've talked about in the past, we've been trying to make a concerted effort to add the social workers that we currently have in the general fund budget. We've been trying to add those and maintain those in the general fund budget. We have 5 social workers. 4 of them are written into a current grant that's going to be expiring in January of 2027, so not this school year, but the following school year. So we've taken those 4 social workers that we have added in 1 a year, approximately, for the past couple of years, to the general fund budget, and pulled those out of the general fund budget and shifted those to the special aid fund. That's where we account for all of our grant funds. So that certainly benefits the general fund budget. It's a decrease of 4 FTEs in the general fund budget. But the concern with that is when this grant runs out, those will need to be considered to be either discontinued or else moved back to the general fund. So that's going to be a discussion.
Or another grant comes out.
Or another grant, actually, absolutely, sustained through another grant. So those are certainly other options moving forward, but it's just a consideration as we kind of plan for subsequent year budgets.
And when will those conversations occur if you know that there's no grant and you have to move it to the general fund? Is that in November?
That's a next year budget question.
Yeah.
So that's going to be November, December, January as we start the planning process for the 27-28 school year. Because again, this is a mid-year grant ending. It ends in January of 2027.
Yeah.
So we have funding all the way through next year, which is why we're using that this year to kind of pull back. But it's something that's going to have to be considered in next year's budget process. So we'll have to remember that. We do have 1 retirement in the business office. We have a payroll person who's retiring. We're not going to be replacing that person, so that's a savings in the general fund budget. And then again, similar to the social workers, we have a SOAR director who's shifting from the general fund to the special aid fund.
Are all of the retirements in now?
Yes. Yes, we have 2 retirements for this year, officially. So those 4 pending changed to 2. Finally, we have a vacant music position that has been vacant for the full year, I believe, correct?
Almost.
Yeah, almost the full year.
Filled them out by sub.
Yeah, and that position is going to be also reduced as well. So what we're presenting to you today is a balanced budget. So our total expenditures are matching our total revenue. There is no gap. So this is a balanced budget. Again, it includes the 2% tax levy increase. And then on the expenditure side, again, just to kind of break up where our expenses are devoted to in our general fund budget. Again, over $36 million, or over 56% of the total general fund budget is directly related to instruction. About 6% is transportation. 23% are employee benefits. So that's health insurance, FICA, TRS, ERS, workers' compensation, unemployment. And then about 4% is debt service. Less than 1% is our interfund transfers. And then finally, general support. That's buildings and grounds, that's our utilities, that's our liability insurance, administrative, central office costs, all of that. That represents approximately 11% of the budget. So on the ballot this year, on May 19th, is going to be 2 propositions. Well, number 1 proposition would be the general fund budget. That'll be the total amount of the general fund budget. And then we have 2 board members up for election this year, and that they will serve, the 2 members will serve a 3-year term. The budget hearing will be May 11th at 6 p.m. at the Batavia High School, right in here in the superintendent's conference room. The vote itself will be on May 19th. One thing that is changing this year is that the hours have changed slightly for the election and Board of Education vote. It's going to be from 11 to 8 p.m. Prior years it's been 11 to 9 p.m., but again it's going to be 11 to 8 p.m. this year. And then another change this year, because of all the construction that's happening at Robert Morris, anyone who is in election district number 1, which normally would vote at Robert Morris School, will be voting at John Kennedy School this year. Election district number 2, which is where I am, would continue to remain at the Batavia High School. That's it. Any questions?
How are we getting the word out about that change for the budget?
What's been the
location, yeah.
It'll be in the news. It'll be in the budget newsletter. We'll have posts. The budget newsletter will have it out, for sure. That goes to every home. We can do Facebook posts and all that.
Yeah, I'm sure concentrated.
Fair Square, we use on Fair Square. We just can't advocate for the budget, but we can just tell them where the voting spots are. So I'll work with Carl on making sure we have some good information on that too.
Any other questions?
I just wanted to say thank you, Mr. Lang. You've had your hands full. I think the very first presentation you gave us, we were at 3.31%. We've heard from some stakeholders, obviously. We worked hard through the budget process, getting down to a 2%. Your one slide showed over the last few years, we've actually decreased that from, I think, 2.4 down to 2.2. Now this year at a 2%. So, you've done a phenomenal job getting that, especially battling some significant increases, especially that health insurance going up 30% in 1 year was a big hit for you to try to balance. And I think you and your team did a phenomenal job. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone have any other questions for Mr. Lang?
Not for Jeff. Thank you, Andy. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
All right, Eli, we're counting on you for some good news coming from your end for your report, bud.
I'm just a little disappointed I can't use the clicker.
That's next month. We got to get you up to that level.
This past Friday was the senior breakfast commemorating 100 days to graduation. I was lucky to win a Tim Hortons gift card, so I'm really riding that high. The travel club will be heading to Europe to visit Germany, Austria, France, Liechtenstein, and Switzerland on April 4th. Prom planning has begun, and it will be at Woodsmith Estates on June 19th. Got a few fundraisers. The senior class will be selling lawn signs, juniors will be collecting bottles and cans, sophomores will be selling coupon books, and then the freshmen will have a popcorn fundraiser through the website Double Good from starting today, March 23rd to the 27th. Batavia High School finished first at the Glow Region Tech Wars. The Batavia City School Art Show is still up, so if you haven't seen it, I recommend seeing it. Mr. Batavia this Friday, and tickets for students went on sale today in their lunches. They will also be on sale at the door. Music in Our Schools concert is March 31st. Kind of my last thing on Anastasia. Had a successful Friday night ride, and I thought it was great. I think I played pretty well too. And the Batavia will be participating in the Stars of Tomorrow event later this spring. And then sports. Obviously, the spring sports season has started. In boys basketball, Gavin White and Casey Mays were named first-team All-Stars for Monroe Division 4. Obviously, Batavia girls 4x2 won states. And as well as other strong performances from other athletes. So,
Well, you're giving yourself a lot of credit today, finally, so do we get a sneak peek at your Mr. Batavia talent actor? All right, well, good luck at that. All right, so I hope you stole a lot of Mr. Smith's thunder, so now we'll pass it over to Mr. Smith for a superintendent.
Jump right into the rather mundane but important topic, and then I'll get to my other highlights. So there's a motion tonight to approve the intermunicipal agreement for the BCSD capital project. I know this is small font, but I mentioned this to you last week in a memo as well. But the highlights are the project is, you are not authorizing the project itself. This simply allows us to have resolution of how we pay for it. Really what we're trying to do is have all 22 districts in our region approve the intermunicipal agreement. If one district does not approve that, then it defaults to what's called DASNY, where we have no control over the rates, right? You can see there I have it from the third bullet from the bottom. DASNY is pool financing that will cost more due to principal. This does not mean the project is going to pass. It's still subject to voter approval in June. But the recommendation from our team is that the board adopts the IMA. This will be budgeted next year. It wasn't the first draft of the budget we showed you in January. That has been since taken out because the project has been delayed. But if any district says no to the IMA, does not mean the project itself is not going to happen. There still has to be a vote. But if one district says no to the IMA, the intermunicipal agreement, then if the project passes, it then defaults to DASNY, which will cost more. So that's the long and short of it. The next step would be a BCSD vote. What I'm asking the board to approve later on tonight is that we approve the IMA, which you have the details on that. I'm going to ask Andy to mention anything that I missed or overstepped. No, in regards to budgetary impact, the benefit of the IMA is that districts are able to kind of fund the project over the project length, which is 4 years. They can fund it whichever way they feel they can manage it. And the benefit is that the district can utilize excess funds at year end to begin to fund those payments prior to when they're due. So ideally, we could do that and not have so much of a budgetary impact on the general fund budget. So we can kind of begin to save for it now in anticipation that within 2 years, which I believe is when our first payment is going to be due, we're able to save up enough that it doesn't significantly impact the general fund budget. So we're working very closely with our auditors on it. It's very not a newer, but unique type of funding arrangement, but it has been done. And so it does have some benefit. Obviously, we're not incurring the interest costs and the DASNY fees associated with financing it, and as well as that duration will be much longer, 15 to 20 years, I'd say. So there will be information out on the project itself, so the public can come out and vote. They're targeting their vote in June, so pending the approval of the IMAs from across the region, and then a successful vote pending that, the project will then go through. It has been at least 2 decades since they've done a major project, and they are just looking to do nuts and bolts type things. So any question on that? I know we had Kevin in the back in October, Kevin McDonald, updated all on that. So that's that. Now I'll go to the other stuff. Tech Wars, I was there last week with Mr. Schmidt, and our principals were there. Our students did outstanding. They came in first. High school and middle school came in first. Some of their work on display was very impressive. On the far right is a flag that was made by one of our students. Couldn't tell what it's made of, but I know I couldn't do it. So it had 10 coats of polyurethane on it. And the bottom left picture, our students were given a mystery box, and they had to construct a bridge out of paper and masking tape. And it had to hold so much weight. Top left are our John Kennedy students. They made medals, and the bottom right there, on the far right there, to work here, it's not going to show up. Student there is probably the most popular event is the bot wars, the bot contest. So that's Travis Bishop there on the far right with his car. So that was a great event. I stayed there an hour longer than I wanted to because it was so fun to see our students working. Anastasia, congrats to Anastasia, and Eli did do a great job on the cello. But the cast did a fantastic job. Ms.
Ms. Wood and her team do a wonderful job. We had great attendance, and they are competing on the Stars contest, so that was a great event to be part of. State champions, again, I want to recognize our 4 ladies who were here earlier, representing the high school quite well. Again, we expect to have them back hopefully in the summertime. Robert Morris, I think I mentioned this to you last time, but we're fully operational. I do want to give the board a tour, perhaps in April or May, of the new facilities. What you see there is a new classroom with some of our teachers and age welcoming students. This was on the first day, on that Wednesday after the break. So I want to just compliment Jessica Corzelius, Mr. Chad Bliss, and our campus team, and Andy and SEI for the work, CPL for the work they did on getting that ready to go. So maybe we'll plan a tour. Would you be interested in doing seeing it in April? We can start the meeting in April. So we'll start the board meeting over there. Dr. Muhammad is going to be back with us in March. 2 of our principals really bought in, all our principals bought in what he had to say, but 2 in particular are interested in doing what's called a culture audit. So Dr. Kaur is going to give us some more detail on what Dr. Muhammad is going to do in a couple of weeks. Actually, this week, right?
Next week he'll be here, yeah. He collects data, and then he comes on site and spends a day in each school, and he talks with teams of people. They put together a list. He kind of just observes it in the natural setting, and then he'll write a final report and give them some recommendations. They really wanted to do this. Their guiding coalition teams listened to him and said, hey, can we do that? And it should help to really just tighten the process of what they need to do for change, and have a guidance document for that from an expert.
So we'll have staff surveys, and then he and his team will go through and share that with the principals and with the district as well. So that's coming up next week. The art show, I went to that Friday night. They all did a fantastic job. Us administrators did a very challenging job of choosing our favorites. So they're on the left-hand side are the high school students, on the right-hand side are our students from John Kennedy and Jackson. And it was well attended. I want to thank our art teachers for the great job they do with that each and every year. Eli mentioned the 100 days to graduation. I was there on Friday morning. It's always a fun event. We fist bumps, lots of raffles. So that was last Friday. And Mr. Batavia, Eli, where are you here, my friend?
On the left.
On the left. So that's Friday night. Please come and support our students. We have some great students participating for some very worthy local causes and charities, and it's a lot of fun. And Read Across America, we partner with our Key Club members. Dr. Sue stays in early March, so there you see some of our Key Club members participating, reading to our youngest students at our elementary school in honor of Read Across America Day. And there's some upcoming dates for you. We have the trade fair, GCCs during the day. That's Mr. Redband's virtual enterprise classes, and Mr. Batavia's Friday night. Music in our schools, concerts next week, and then of course we're on spring recess next week after that. So, any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. So at this time, we are going to call for an executive session. The board will return to public session after. The purpose of the executive session is to discuss the medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, or dismissal or removal of a particular person or corporation. So I just need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
By Ms. Lundberg, do I have a second? Second, Mr. Schmidt. All in favor? All right.
We'll be back.
be in the bathroom, she's coming. All right.
So Ches made the motion to adjourn, and then Barb seconded it. At 7:34.
Welcome back, Nick. Back. All right, thank you guys for that. Next up is consent grouping. We need a motion to approve the consent groupings for agenda items H through N. Do I have first?
He's just quiet. Chad's just
Chaz. And do we have a second?
Second.
By Mrs. Anderson. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So now we have a bunch of individuals to vote and approve on under old business. First up is our 26-27 BCSD school calendar to reapprove the new calendar.
So the only change there is we moved the superintendent's conference day in January from a Friday to a Monday. Same topic, same type of plan, but the Regents exams take place Friday, so we're just going to bump it to have the conference day being on Monday. Everything else is the same.
Okay. Any discussion? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
By Jen. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Corinne. All in favor?
Aye.
Next up is a motion to approve the 25-26 capital outlay bid for HVAC improvements to Batavia High School from Mulberry Betts Incorporated. Do I have any discussion? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
By Mrs. Bowman. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Jen. All in favor?
Aye.
And next up for old business would be a motion to approve the contract for the 25-26 capital outlay project HVAC improvements at Batavia High School. Do I have any discussion? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
By Mr. Roll. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Mr. Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next up is our new business. A updated schedule, right?
This is the board schedule for next, not, I don't think it's updated.
Okay, this is just for next year's
First time we put it on.
first draft for our budget.
So, that's right, go ahead.
Go ahead.
For simplicity's sake, with one exception, every meeting will begin at 6 p.m. next year.
6 o'clock?
6 o'clock. And then the only exception will be on July 1st, which is our typically our reorganization meeting will be on July 1st at 8 a.m. That typically takes about 10 minutes at most, but every other meeting will be at 6. And always on the third Monday. There's no holidays we have to deal with next year on Mondays. So every meeting will be at 6 p.m., save the one on July 1st.
All right. Any questions, any discussion? All right, so we'll need a motion to approve the Board of Education meeting schedule for the 26-27 school year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
By Mrs. Anderson. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Mrs. Lenve. All in favor?
Aye.
Next up is the Genesee Valley BOCES capital project proposal. This will be to approve the below resolution with Genesee Valley BOCES in regards to the proposed capital project. And this is what Mr. Smith went over in the beginning of his superintendent's report. Is there any other questions or discussion? Do I have a motion? So moved. By Dan. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Allison. All in favor? Right. Moving right along is our internal audit risk assessment and corrective action plan for the year ending June 30th, 2026. So we need a motion to approve this.
So moved.
By Allison. Do I have a second?
So, second.
By Barbara. All in favor?
Aye.
Next and last is our amendment to the services agreement We need a motion to approve the First Amendment to the services agreement between, is it Omni and TSACG Compliance Services and the Tavy City School District.
That's just an update, right? Our district, us, so we just added on Vanguard.
Vanguard, yep, the
So-
option, you have the option for employees to utilize Vanguard funds and they assume the fee.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
By Jen, do I have a second?
Second.
By Chez, all in favor?
Aye.
Right. And other reports, we do have our administrative reports for curriculum and instruction in the business office listed on our website, so please feel free to take a look at those. Do we have any board goal updates from anyone?
I toured the high school.
She beat you, Dan.
Fair enough, ladies first.
Toured the high school with Miss West, walked around, saw the cell phone in action, collecting them, whatnot. And what else did we talk about? Just kind of talked to her about school behavior issues, just kind of threw some thoughts in my head down the road. But overall, you know, every time I walk into that school with her, she impresses me so much, the way that she interacts with students. And, you know, my daughter's at college now and misses her, and she has this connection with every single kid in that school. You can hear her. I heard her coming down the hallway with her high heels. I mean, I don't think she's ever in her office unless she's, you know, has to do a meeting. I mean, she's running around. So, very impressed with her.
Good, thank you.
Oh, and I went to the art show before it opened. I happened to be in there, and I was blown away by the level of it. It was very impressive, very impressive. That's all I got.
All right, Dan, you're up.
All right, so I can attest to what you were saying. It seems like every school that I go in, which has only been a few, we've got high caliber leaders. That's what I'm finding, discovering the high caliber leadership that we have in our district. Jessica Corzilius, I went to Robert Morris, is one of those high caliber leaders. She's done a great job preparing her team for the many phases of the remodel project. It was really neat to just walk in the first door and just see that whole special ed wing and how much need there is and how they're just, I'm going to say, teaching and loving on these kids. When I went into the occupational therapy room, I mean, I really got choked up. I was fighting it. Just to see these teachers pouring into these kids that have such great needs. The teachers and administration should be more than applauded personally, and I mentioned this to Mr. Smith in front of Jessica, so I'll mention it again. I think we should find a way to reward all the staff that's there, maybe even considering like a lunch or something similar. I mean, they've been through it this year, right? And they're not done, right? There's more to do. So maybe just as a thank you, we can consider something. I'm new to the table, so I don't know how that could work, but I think if we can, we should. I saw firsthand how everyone from the janitor to the counselors to the teachers and beyond sacrificed for the betterment of the students. Mrs. Corzilius shared how excited she is about having another grade in the school. It's going to feel full, she said, and they're really excited about that. Having a full school of our youngest learners will be a great opportunity to create a solid foundation for every other school to build upon. So she understands, like, her job is super important when it comes to that. Mrs. Corzilius would love for every board member to come see all the great things happening at Robert Morris. So then, I just want to mention that I went to the wrestling banquet. I had the opportunity to speak at the wrestling banquet, which was a huge honor, speaking from the parents' perspective of wrestling and then also as a referee. And so just had the opportunity to just kind of invest into our students and some of the parents, and our coaches are doing a phenomenal job, and they're a representation of every sport that we have. You know, we have phenomenal coaches. Then, last thing I want to mention is I attended the Tech Wars last week, like Mr. Smith had mentioned. I think there was, maybe 50 to 60 students or more from the school there winning awards, both the junior high and the high school. First place, which I think is a testament of, again, our teachers. I'm thinking about the technology side of the school, what we do in the schools. And I had a thought walking in, and so I wrote it down that like every student can almost be divided up into two categories, college and then the trades. And I think the sooner we can help these young students to understand where their giftings are and where their passions are, the better off they're gonna be literally for the rest of their life and for their community. And so when I think about like BOCES, and then I think about these technology classes, the technology classes are almost like pre-BOCES, and these kids are understanding whether or not, even from this young age, whether they're good with their hands or whether they want to be sitting behind a desk. And so I would encourage just thinking about our community, and I've got one son that's at college and one son that was just in San Diego learning about electric cars, that we should really do our best to invest in both directions. And so I just want to congratulate the teachers that are doing a phenomenal job. I think there's more students than they can handle. And I would say again, like I did last month, that I know this year probably isn't going to happen, but maybe down the road, think about increasing, this program, because they're hitting home runs, and we've got a lot of students that are discovering that they're more hands-on oriented versus going to college. So that's all I got. Thank you.
I was at the middle school. I spent the afternoon at the middle school. I was able to attend the 5th grade ELA class with Legos. That was really cool. A 5th grade math class, which was just maybe at my level. Math is never going to be my best spot, but man, she made it interesting. She was enthusiastic. And then I ended the afternoon with Dr. Prine going to on a field trip to the library for the peer mentoring program that they're putting in place. And I was really excited about the whole afternoon. Dr. Prine has a high level of energy, and she seems to have really connected with the kids. And the teachers seem to have a very high level of energy as well. It seems to be a really smooth, good transition. And I was really impressed by the peer program. That really looks like it's going to be amazing. They were really, as we watched, they were really involved with each other in the role playing in that. And so that has a ton of potential to, help their own relationships and the time that they spend in the school. So I had a really fun afternoon, and I really appreciate Dr. Prine, because that's the 3rd time I've done it. The 2 other times I spent the mornings at the middle school attending classes. And it's so fun because you see more. Before that, I had, been walked here and there and whatnot, which was cool too. But actually sitting and listening to her present math, which has always been my hard subject, and then listening to her present English, which was my stronger subject, and seeing the enthusiasm that came out of the kids, and I'm thinking, was I that enthusiastic back in the day, and was I struggled with some things, but it was really fun to see the whole one class. It just kind of put in perspective some of the stuff that they've been doing, and not necessarily getting the credit that they should. Batavia Middle School, I've always been a supporter of Batavia Middle School, and they really are hitting home runs now, in my opinion. There you go.
I want to add one more thing. When I was at the high school, a student walked up to me and he was like, "Oh, I just talked to your son," and I want to shout out Mr. Cezak, who set up like a Zoom meeting with an alumni, which I thought was so cool for him just to reach out, and he had 2 students sit in on it that was interested about the military. And I think Mr. Cezak is such a great resource for anyone who is a college track, tech track, military track, just to, connect with alumni. So kind of put that out there for any alumni that has, for connection is huge.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you guys, getting into the schools, being visible like we had set for goals. During the presentation, the reason I asked that communication with Mr. Kessler with the parents, because I think our families, our parents need to know that our teachers are available, they're there to help, they're there to do what they can for their students. Perfect example today, I reached out to two regarding my son, and I told Mr. Smith at the beginning of the meeting, both teachers responded back by lunch, just with what they can do to help, that offered to be available. So for parents that have busy schedules, send an email. The teachers will do whatever they can for our students, and it stands, again, testament to our staff. You know, they're there to do whatever we can for our students' needs. So, and we'll put them on the spot. One of them was Mr. Besting sitting behind the camera, so. All right, anyone else have anything else? Oh.
Yeah, I just want to say, and I don't want to make a big deal, I've decided I'm not going to run for the board, even though you all know that I picked a position. I think I'm going to go on to other things, and I appreciate all my time.
Well, we're sorry to hear that, because.
Yeah, so now I'll have to find another person to run along with Barb, because it's, you know, 2 positions open.
Okay.
Okay?
Well, we'll acknowledge you obviously before that May meeting, but,
Just wanted to let you know.
it's, thank you for giving us the heads up, and
Sure.
sad to hear. You have a
Oh, don't be
long
too
time.
disappointed. It's okay.
So, all right, anyone else have anything else? All right, I think we are good to go. We just need a motion to adjourn public session.
So moved.
By Ms. Andre, do I have a second?
Second.
By Mrs. Anderson, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.